Hey guys, so in your book, under Essential Management Skills, which is the very end of chapter 1, hopefully I put the link right there, you see that Robert Katz has kind of categorized all skills in an organization, human skills in an organization, under 3 categories: technical skills, human skills, and conceptual skills. Now, let's start with the last. Conceptual skills. Conceptual skills are the ability to take and integrate vast, large amounts of information and think abstractly about them, to sift through facts that don't matter and sort of discard them and highlight the concepts and the elements of the equation that make the difference. And this takes time. And this is why organizations generally consider someone a senior in the industry after they have 10 years of experience. 10 years of experience roughly equates to 20,000 hours. It's 2,080 hours in a working year with a little bit of vacation, and times 10 years. So the expectation is not that you'd come out of college as the very strongest conceptual thinker, but that you would have the components and the pieces to start building those conceptual competencies right away. Technical skills are easier for us to teach because, after all, we can have a test where we ask you, is this a debit or a credit? Is this a shift in supply or a shift in demand? What would happen to the price? And we can create equations and technical functions for you and test you, and you can get those right. And there's a right or wrong answer in those types of questions, in that type of education. Human skills are different. Katz describes human skills as the capacity to work well with others, and generally that would mean things like showing up on time, not taking excessive lunch breaks, not being rude to other people. But basically, you can encapsulate all these types of things into the domain of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, if you haven't looked at that, I encourage you to do a little reading because that's highly constructive, I think. Emotional intelligence is the ability for you to read social cues of others in their facial expressions, in their tone, in their mannerisms, in their body language, and read between the lines kind of and determine what's going on. How am I being perceived by other people? I mean, it's not really a problem if you take a little bit extra time during lunch if everyone's totally fine with it. Maybe you're somebody who's works extra hard and you take a little bit extra time during lunch. People might be very happy with that trade-off, but you have to determine if they are or not, because if they're disappointed with that, then you get essentially penalized for that behavior, even if your productivity is very high. So being socially astute is really important in the organization. We don't have a great way to teach you that. What I'd encourage you to do is maybe just go on the internet and read about emotional intelligence, and you can find plenty of resources to kind of give you at least a little assessment of your emotional IQ. Be honest with yourself and identify the areas where there are gaps, just like the last video where I was talking about skills and knowledge gaps when I was talking about human capital. And go and fill those in. And this is going to take a little bit more work. It's a little more personal to you because we're talking about you personality-wise and also you socially. And not all of us had equal upbringings. We didn't have the same kind of training. Some of you had parents that, you were yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. Others of you could yell and scream at your parents. We have a vast array of different backgrounds and experiences, but when we get into the workplace, there's really boundaries around what is acceptable behavior and what isn't. And there's really expectations for a minimal amount of emotional IQ for everyone. So we don't get to say, well, I had this background or I had this experience, and so this is the way I am. That's fine, but you're not going to do it here. So to avoid that, start to develop yourself emotionally in terms of your emotional IQ now, if you haven't already begun this journey. I can tell you from my own experience that it's been never ending. As soon as I maybe accomplish something where I see a deficit in my own life, then I'm kind of open up. So I open the box, and inside is more things that I discover, more things that I need to work on, which can either be kind of a downer, or you can look at it like, wow, look at the opportunities I have now. Now I can go through I'm aware of more things socially that I can strengthen and enhance in my own character and in the way I interact with others, and that presents a great opportunity. So I hope you look at it as an opportunity, not as a threat to yourself, no matter where you are in terms of your emotional IQ. There's always great opportunities for growth for everyone in life. I believe entirely in that, and I believe entirely in you. And it just requires you to be motivated and you to be honest with yourself and willing to do what it takes to enhance these skills. So technical, human skills, conceptual skills. Technical skills, tacit type knowledge is pretty easy to convey. It just has to do with your intellect and your ability and your effort to get that knowledge and retain it, or those technical skills that you acquire. Anyone can learn to cast a fishing rod far if you practice long enough. Anyone can ride a bike if you try hard enough. Conceptual skills, those come later in time. We try to capture those in strategy capstone course where we integrate finance, economics, marketing, management, everything. But human skills, we really fail you here because the education system just not geared up for this. You need to do more role play and things like that we tend to think are a little bit cheesy. So I encourage you to think about a strategy for developing your own human skills. All right, thanks.